A lot of people, when they're building a pool, really do put their trust in the builder to guide them not only on the build process, but the colors and textures and finishes and all of that stuff as well, even down to planting and irrigation. If you imagine taking a pot of water and trying to boil it with a blowtorch on the side, it's going to take a long time. But when you start heating it from the bottom up, it's more efficient. It heats the entire.
John Kenyon is the sales manager and design consultant at Gibson Pools. His role is to understand his clients' dreams, unique needs, and meet their budget within their design preferences. He has recently completed his professional goal of completing his master's degree as a certified pool design and building, and is now teaching multiple classes at the university. His role as a consultant is to help you understand the construction process, the financial process, and the emotional roller coaster, and of course, the final reveal. Whether your pool's indoors or outdoors, or a postage stamp or a football field, his design experience and a wealth of ideas to share. Welcome to Luxury Outdoor Living Podcast with Mike
and Trey Farley
of Farley Pool Designs. For over 40 years, we've helped homeowners turn their backyards into personal retreats. And that's why after decades of designing and teaching in this industry, we're here to share our knowledge, helping you navigate the process with confidence.
Every week we break down design, trends, and insider tips that turn your vision into reality. We'd love to have you along for the ride.
Let's build your paradise together. Good evening, John. I just want to welcome you to Luxury Outdoor Living Podcast, and just thank you for coming and staying with us. I know, are you on the same time zone as us, or are you actually getting into late in the evening?
We're just an hour different, okay. So just an hour ahead of you.
That's not too bad. So we just read your bio about everything. So tell us, how did this journey all start? How did you get into the pool industry?
It's actually really funny. When I was a kid, I actually had to get dragged kicking and screaming to swim. My mother said she's never seen a kid so terrified in their life going to swimming lessons. I don't think it was actually the swimming. I think it was just it was loud. The kids were like yelling and screaming, and it was just and I was just beyond what I had no idea. And then my dad decided to fix that and build a family swimming pool in the backyard himself. So my dad was a police officer, but he was handy, and he didn't buy a kit. He went into the steel company and bought a piece of steel, and then he went and bought some sand, and we dug the hole by hand with a shovel.
Oh, wow.
And that was kind of a neat experience. We heated the pool with poly pipe that he put up to the garage roof in a circle. Like the water went up and came back down hot. And so my dad was kind of genius like that. I was about 9 years old. And then I went on to my life and worked in retail for a long time. And then I worked in radio for a little bit in advertising. And Mr. Gibbs from Gibson Pools, the owner, was a client.
Okay.
And he said to me, you ever want to quit this job? I'll make you an offer you can't refuse, but you're going to have to learn how to sell pools, and you're going to have to learn how to build them, and you're going to have to learn how to do all of that. And so he enrolled me into Genesis way back in 2012. And I went to 3 or 4 classes a year for the first few years. It was pretty incredible. I was one of the fastest ever to get what they called then my SWD, or Society of Waterscape Designers, in 2.5 years.
Right. No, I think really the first time I met you was in Color Theory,
yeah.
Yeah, I think it was Color Theory. Yeah, that we had together. Yeah.
Yeah. So Color Theory, I actually took the advanced one too. And you ever hear in music a thing called perfect pitch, when someone can tell you what the note is right away?
Yes.
Well, when you have kind of a degree in color theory, it's a curse. So when you see people with the beautiful brown houses and then bluestone on their driveway and then limestone here, and so they're mixing their colors like crazy, you have to very delicately fix that.
Right.
Because it drives me crazy.
Yeah. Well, that's the challenges of a good education, is you know all those things.
Yeah, it's great though. It actually is a very great benefit, especially when the client puts their trust in you. A lot of people when they're building a pool really do put their trust in the builder to guide them not only on the build process but the colors and textures and finishes and all of that stuff as well, even down to planting and irrigation. So we really have to know a lot about all of that stuff.
You got involved through that process. So, now you're actually a Genesis instructor as well, right?
Correct.
Yeah.
So cool.
What is there a particular thing you like to teach?
Well, I teach sales, but from a design perspective. So it's a really cool class. I had, in my very first time teaching it, I had 16 people in the class that never drew anything in their life. And I had them hand sketch an entire backyard on graph paper and then present the design to the client in 8 hours.
Quick learning curve.
Pretty cool. It was pretty cool.
Yeah.
So it really shows that it's a skill that can be learned. I try, especially when I go to a client's backyard, when you have that experience, not just educational experience, but when you start going more and more often, you really can start to see the vision in the backyard, even a lot of times before the client does. For me, I usually talk to the client a little bit in the backyard, and then I say, would you leave me alone just for 20 minutes and I'm going to measure, and I have a piece of graph paper right there, and I literally hand sketch it out to scale, the backyard.
Wow.
And then I go back in the house with them and I say, let's talk about what we're going to put back here. And I do a quick hand sketch there. And by the time we leave in about half an hour, they have a hand pretty much rendering of what it's going to look like flat.
Wow, that's a quick process. So
it is. And it's what I teach in that class. But clients don't even realize that they've just seen their backyard in less than an hour.
Well, so do you then take that flat sketch and then put it in a 3-dimensional model?
Yeah. 3-dimensional or 2-dimensional, still in the concept phase, because I think until we have grades taken and all of those things, I have a good idea what it's going to be. But until we get exact tree sizes and protection zones and swales and all of this stuff, and we'll talk about that a little bit in the things clients need to know and what they don't need to know to have a successful pool project. But really coming up with an idea. And when I start with a client, I always say, I'm sure we have a budget on this and we're going to talk about that, but let's talk about designing first like money doesn't matter. Because I want to get sort of the feeling of what they're looking for. If they could have anything they want, what would it be? And what that does is if it's beyond the budget, it does allow us to phase. Right? It allows us to phase the project. So I'll give you an example. Yeah. Let's say a client really wants a water feature on the project, but they don't really have the budget for it. But I can run the water line while it's done and prepare the shell to have an extra bit of shell on top of it, like cinder block or whatever, and finish a water feature 2 or 3 years down the road. Maybe they want a fire pit now and it's not in the budget, but we can run all the gas lines underground while everything is dug up. Planning ahead and thinking ahead when you're in the initial design phase is very helpful.
Oh yeah, a lot of our clients they'll phase out like outdoor living spaces, especially structures. It happens a lot. Yeah, we sleeve it out and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, I'll even go so far as say a pool house with a bathroom in it, actually running the plumbing for the bathroom and even the concrete pad, and they just use the concrete pad as a patio for a while.
Right. We've got a large project that we just finished last year that's the case. And right now it looks like they've got all this huge paving in their backyard because the structure is a 20 by 20, hasn't got built yet. So.
We just dug one just like that too.
That's true. Yeah.
Having done a few renos myself indoor, I tell clients, usually you're going to go over budget a little bit and 90% of the time it's your fault. And I explain, because I've done the same thing. I start a renovation and it starts to look good and you start to see things and you're like, oh, maybe we should do that and maybe we should do that. A really good qualified designer and pool builder can really help in showing you what is really needed for the foundation and what you can phase realistically if you need to phase.
Right. So in your process, you mentioned landscaping. So do you guys work with the landscaping aspect as well as the pool aspect?
Yeah, and we do some small things in-house, and we also subcontract to other landscapers. And sometimes the client has their own landscaper, but they'll work from our design.
Right. So you're creating then a total master plan of their backyard, complete with the landscaping concepts. I mean, do you guys get into the lighting aspects of it as well as the hardscape and the structures?
And it depends on the client. Some people just want the pool, and they have a landscape plan done already, and they just ask us to quote on the pool. And they have people that do their lighting and irrigation already, but right down to planting if they want. We can design it.
So, in your process, is this when someone calls initially, do you guys charge a consultation fee to come out or design fees, or how do y'all handle that process?
We were during the pandemic because there were just so many people calling. Now we qualify them really well on the phone first, get an idea if they have done any research, if they know what pools cost, and if we feel like they are in a reasonable place to be able to purchase a pool, then we'll go out at no charge. Our designs are not free. My hand sketch is free. But if we get into a full 3D drawing or a CAD drawing, there's a charge for that. And that depends on the level of detail. If it's just a concept or if it's with grades and trees and planting plans and lighting plans, it varies.
Sure. Yeah, you mentioned you do a hand sketch, but then so after someone approves the hand sketch that's headed in the right direction, so how does your process go from there?
So we talk, because I can give them a rough idea just from the hand sketch. So the pool's going to be from this range to this range, depending whether they want a vinyl pool or a concrete pool. It's going to be, the water feature is going to be this much. This is about 500 square feet of decking, which can run from here to here. So you're looking at a budget just from the hand sketch of say $200,000 to $300,000. Let's just use that as an example.
Sure.
Could be 100 to 200. And then that's a wide range. And I say, are you comfortable with that range? And a client will say yes or no. I was thinking maybe it was closer to 150 or two, but I can see why it is. And I remind them again that we did say all in and we can phase it. So it really comes down to, they get excited when even they see the hand sketch. And I encourage all homeowners to at least get some idea of what you're going to get. Even when you're paying for a design, it's really important. Are you getting just a concept, or are you getting a full measured plan? Because a measured plan you can shop, and so that's why a pool builder wants to get paid for that.
Sure.
But also, once you have a relationship with a designer, you're pretty much, I know when I've done renovations myself, I want to deal with the person that designed it because they know the ins and outs. And if we need to make changes on the fly, they know sort of where all the bodies are buried.
Right.
It's funny. That reminds me of like horror stories I've heard at pool shows from, these builders talking about the customer buys a $50,000 plan and it's a concept that isn't even buildable.
So you can price a concept, but it's a budget.
Yeah.
So it happens because again, we're not taking grades at the point. Now I sometimes will take, if I notice it's a big slope, I have a laser in the car and I'll bring it out and just do a quick one just to get an idea. But there's easy ways to check that out just by measuring how your fence drops down, just sight lines from the house. You can on points on the fence, you can sort of figure it out. I'm pretty close, usually within 6 to 8 inches on those big slopes.
Yeah.
So in Canada, where y'all are located, is there, like we were talking with someone last week and I was like, I thought I dealt with big hillsides, which are 10, 15 feet. And he's talking about 45 and 50 feet in northern Georgia. The elevation changes. So what kind of elevation change do y'all have in the area?
We deal with what we call ravines and urban forestry. So Toronto's a big city. General populations of the city is 3 million, but it's 10 million around Greater Toronto, and we have a big ravine system. So a ravine your backyard can go out and then it can drop like 20, 30, 40 feet, but it's very treed usually. But they have big restrictions on those lots. So usually you have to be 6 meters, which is about 20 feet back from top of slope, which you can only determine with the geotechnical report.
Okay.
Well, I've been in situations with the client and the conservation said, well, you want to put a pool in, but the house is in peril.
Which is not a good thing.
Yeah.
So, is that a surprise to clients when they find that situation? They thought they had plenty of space?
Yeah, for some. And obviously, when you buy a ravine lot, you're paying a lot more money for it because there's a beautiful lot, usually the treed lot with slopes, and sometimes there's creeks running in the back of them, which also pose a problem of being in a flood zone. So a creek can rise in what they call now a 100-year storm, which come every 2 or 3 years, it seems now.
Yeah.
And the 100-year storms, they now have storm lines. So as we've learned in some of our Genesis classes, you can build in the floodplain, but it's still not recommended. So they really discourage building in floodplains, and then we have to deal with trees. So the trees are protected like crazy here.
Okay.
So anything over 30 centimeters, which is about 30 centimeters is about 15 inches, 12 inches is protected, and it has a protection zone around it. So you can't dig within that zone without permission.
What kind of trees are predominantly in the area? I'm just curious.
It's actually called a Carolina forest, but it's primarily locusts, maples, birches, beeches, sycamores, tamaracks, birch trees, a few elms, but yeah, a lot of coniferous and a lot of deciduous both.
Wow.
White pines, blue spruces.
That sounds beautiful. I want a ravine lot.
Yeah, you do. So again, you can go through the process with a ravine lot, but you have to have a bunch of things. So now when there's a map in Toronto and I go on the person's address and all these blotches of color come up. So if I see pink come up on top of their like a blotch over their house, that is a heritage lot, which means there could be native indigenous heritage. There could be a old settlement there. There could be, and there's a lot of it in Toronto because there's a lot of creeks and riverbeds and things. All that means is if you want to build a pool, you have to have an archaeologist come and do a little hand dig on the site first just to check, and then they need to be there for the excavation. Then there's another blob, which is tree zone. So the trees, it's called urban forestry. So urban forestry has a block of trees that are protected. In a ravine, they're double tree protection zones. So if it was normally 8 feet around the tree, it's now 16 feet around the tree. And then we have a ravine, which is our sort of conservation, which is slope and slope stability and water. So when you're in a ravine, you deal with a lot more things, and it's expensive. So you need a geotechnical report, you need an arborist report, you need a slope stability report, usually a drainage and runoff report, and all that stuff can add up. But it's the price you pay for being in a ravine lot, because as you know, when you do those mountain jobs or the California cliffs and things like that, they're obviously the most stunning projects.
Oh, sure. The sight lines are beautiful, looking out over all that, but you have to build it so it doesn't slide down the hillside.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. And I give the city credit. They do due diligence. Now at Gibson, we're well respected because we follow the rules. So we're usually given permissions faster because we know what we're doing. We follow the rules. So they know. But when they say no, we have pushed back and made them do a site visit, and they saw our way, and again, because they know we're going to do things properly. Things like crossing golf courses, which can be very tricky. Golf courses don't like you running machines across their greens.
No, they don't.
But we will if you know how to do it. So if you have rubber tires and you come across different ways, and you come in at night or in the winter when the ground is frozen, then they're more apt to do stuff like that.
So bringing up frozen, okay. So how you guys have to have a totally different construction process than we do in Texas. I mean, gosh, it snowed the other day, and the state of Texas thought they were going to die. Houston, the mayor told people not even to leave their homes because it snowed like 3 inches or 4 inches, because they have no equipment to deal with it, because it doesn't happen that often. So walk through, can you build there all year, or do you just said drove across a frozen golf course, so you must build some in the winter.
Yeah, it depends on the winter. So it can range anywhere, and I have to use Celsius, but let's say Fahrenheit would be from 36 degrees down to about 25 degrees or 20 degrees Fahrenheit. The ground's still frozen, but not much. Like it's maybe a couple of inches down.
Right.
It's minus 25, which, by the way, is minus 25 in Celsius and Fahrenheit is the same.
Oh, okay. That's cold in both of the cases.
And so frost in our area in Canada is the regulation is 4 feet. So you have to dig everything down 4 feet that you don't want to move. So the pool, even if you were building it 3 feet above the ground, you still have to go down 4 feet and bring it up for frost. So imagine I'm building a sun ledge on a pool, or it's a Baja ledge, whatever you want to call it.
Right.
It's only 6 inches thick. I still go down 4 feet and bring it back up with gravel.
Okay. We do the same thing, because in Texas, a lot of the hillsides, they do backfill, but it doesn't have to be certified. And
Yeah,
so it can be big settlement issues. So we remove it all. And so we've got projects all the time that we're having to, especially on ledges, that we have to bring in, 3 feet of gravel, 4 feet of gravel, that type of thing.
If we go back to the initial process, these are the smart people that are calling right now. Actually, the really smart people called me in the fall.
Right.
The smart people call in the fall. The second most smart people call right now, because if they can get in now and get their permits now, they'll get a good chance to dig in early spring. Last year we dug all winter. It was a mild winter, and we were able to get the holes in. If I get the hole in before deep frost hits, we can build the shell all winter.
Okay.
Tarping, sometimes if it's really cold, but retardants in the concrete. Just depends.
Okay, so that was the thing. My dad lived in Eastern Ohio, and he used to say, why don't you guys because when we have freezing weather, we shut down. Yeah. And we don't do any masonry work. We don't do any gunite work. We don't do any concrete work because of the freezing capabilities of the moisture in the product. So, but you can add mix additives and things like that to allow you to keep working.
Yeah, we don't do the delicate stuff like the coping and the tile and plaster. That has to be a certain temperature to do that, okay. or tented. Tenting, the client has to be aware that they're going to pay extra cost to tent it, but some will because they want to speed up the project.
Okay, so what that means is they put a tent across the whole project, the whole pool shell?
Yep.
And then
so shell and blow a gas heater in there.
Okay. Amazing. So
yeah.
You can keep on working. So do they just line the projects up then for plaster in the spring when it gets warmer? But you can do everything except for the plaster?
Yeah, and obviously the plaster, I don't know if most of your listeners know, but the plaster is really the last thing. The water goes in generally the same or the next day after the plaster is put in. So that's kind of the last thing anyway. So that you want to make sure all your planting is done and your cutting is done. And so there's no dust and debris going into a brand new, beautiful pool finish.
I'm wondering, do y'all use a lot of glass tile? Because I know y'all have a lot of shock and thaw.
We do.
Okay.
There's actually we practice from a lot of the classes we've taken. There's some really good methods for glass. We use a company called Artistry Mosaic, which actually is rated the best for frost we've ever used. We use epoxy grout and soft joints in different spots, so it really helps keep the tile on. And remarkably, it's been really great.
So
They're doing a lot of bigger glass tiles now too, not just mosaics, like some subway tiles in glass,
Okay.
and some big 6x6s and even 12x12s in glass.
wow,
We actually just did a glass tile for a client that's going in their transition of their pool is in the Grateful Dead skeleton head.
Oh wow.
The artistry mosaic did it in tiny little computer-made tiles. It's quite remarkable.
Yeah, my brother-in-law would love that. So he's definitely a deadhead. So anyway,
So that's an exciting one that we're doing, and it's in glass as well, but it's going on the transition of the pool in with the slope.
right. So how do you deal? So, okay, so you can construct pools in the wintertime. Do people drain their pools in the winter, or can you keep a pool running in the wintertime?
It's a good question. So draining, we don't drain them completely. We drain them below the skimmer, and then plug the returns, and then we fill them with antifreeze. Then they get covered. This is a regular winter cover, which is like a tarp, and that goes over top, and water goes on that, and then we pull a safety cover over the tarp. The reason for the safety covers, you're aware, most of them are like a giant tea bag. So if you get leaves and debris on there and snow melts, you end up with coffee in your pool in the spring. So we put the double cover on in the winter. A lot of our clients now are opting to keep their pools open all winter, not covered, just outside, but with an automatic cover and with in-floor heating and cleaning and insulation on the shell and the piping. The pool equipment has to go in a heated shed or a heated room.
Okay.
In their house, or some people are putting a little baseboard heater and some insulation in a shed. Anything you can do to make sure that the water doesn't get cold on the way to and from the pool.
Do you insulate pipes as well?
Yeah. So we dig them a little deeper and then insulate the pipes and insulate the shell before we shoot it, and the auto cover. And it's a really amazing. When you go out and Christmas Eve and take the auto cover off, and the steam's coming off the pool, and you can have a pool party for Christmas.
Well, I tell people all the time, heating a pool up to use off season, I think, is one of the greatest things you can do, because, everybody swims in the summertime, but I mean, for kids and grandkids, when you heat the pool up for, Christmas or New Year's or special birthday parties or things like that, and it's like you said, the steam's coming off the pool, and it's a great memory, and people just love to have memories. So, if it's unique, then it sticks in their minds forever.
We've got a couple of big ones, but a lot of smaller pools, because obviously they're less expensive to heat. But the cost of keeping it open all winter is marginally more than the cost to open and close it.
Right. So you mentioned in-floor cleaning. Explain, because I don't think some people understand why that would be a helpful process to have.
We in Canada, so I don't know if people know, but there's in-floor cleaning, which they call it down in the US, because it literally cleans debris off the floor of the pool. They look like a sprinkler head system in the floor of the pool, and the water pressure pops the jets up, they shoot water, and then they rotate, and then they drop. And by shooting the water, they're engineered to push debris towards a drain and then a canister. But what it also does is it heats from the floor up. So if you're thinking of heating a swimming pool, your water comes in from the skimmer and the drain, and it goes back to the equipment, and it heats and treats, and then it comes back about halfway up the pool or 3/4 of the way up. And it's really not as efficient. If you imagine taking a pot of water and trying to boil it with a blowtorch on the side, it's going to take a long time. But when you start heating it from the bottom up, it's more efficient. It heats the entire pool, so you don't get those cold zones on the bottom. And when in the winter time, now you've got a fully warm pool, top to bottom. Not to mention the added, we say in-floor heating with cleaning assist in Canada because we have a lot bigger leaves generally up here, and it won't do it like 100% like they say in the States. We say 60 or 70% clean, but it does heat from the bottom up.
We don't claim 100% either.
We shouldn't, at least.
Well, I think Paramount says 99%, yeah. But that's but for us, having that assistive cleaning and the heating from the floor, even if you're not keeping it open in winter, it gives you that nice even swimming, and it does save on chemicals as well, because it keeps chemicals around the entire pool instead of just coming again from the side.
Okay. So
and winter, being able to swim in the winter, sometimes people want to just keep the hot tub portion of, say, a concrete pool with a hot tub attached. They want to keep just the hot tub open in the winter. And we can do that as well. You close off the pool and you leave the hot tub open and the equipment is just running. And in that case, we would still insulate the pipes, but we would just insulate the spa shell and then the shed. So you can literally have your hot spa next to the cold pool that's closed off and utilize the spa in the winter.
For those people that want the hot tub and cold plunge, there you got the setup already.
You cold plunge in Canada, you just roll in the snow. Scandinavian style.
Yeah, 100%. So it is the health and wellness industry. I think that in Canada, they've embraced that much more than they have in the U.S. Is that something that you see that people look at when they're purchasing their outdoor environment?
It's humongous. So Ed Gibbs just was in Europe and in the U.S., and they just produced a paper, big paper for the PHTA on wellness in the swimming business. And it was just released in Atlantic City last week, and it's a remarkable document. All the heads of the major pool manufacturers were there and participating, and it was about safety and wellness, and it's just, I believe the report is now out at PHTA. We'll have it up on our website soon, and wellness is huge. We say at Gibson, we're not in the swimming pool business, we are in the health and wellness business. Swimming is so important for not only physical health, but mental health. It brings back memories for your kids. I mean, look at my memories. We talked about at the beginning of digging a pool with my dad, but swimming in this little above ground pool and doing whirlpools, and me and my brothers used to jump off the garage into the pool when my parents weren't looking. But that's the film strip of life. And so wellness is all about mental wellness as well, and looking back on those memories. And you can't give a kid a better childhood than having a swimming pool. It's just an amazing gift. I have to tell you a funny story. I had a client down in an area in Toronto we called the Beaches, and he had two very small children, and he had kind of a crazy access. We had to go up a driveway and in the back. And I couldn't figure out why he had his sort of back windows of the house blocked off. And we were about 3 months there. It was a big project. And I said, I have to ask you, why do you have your back windows blocked off? He said, oh, the kids don't know we're getting a pool.
Oh, wow.
So they kept it a secret for 3 months with all the noise and all that stuff. And again, the kids were in school. And when the pool was done, they just opened the back door and the kids were like, oh my gosh.
That's cool.
What a surprise.
Yeah. Isn't that great? So imagine those kids, their memories of that for the rest of their lives.
Yeah.
We're swimming in the winter. Kaylee Gibbs she's got a winter birthday, and they have a winter pool. And she said for the first time she could have her birthday party in a pool. So
we have 3 birthdays in the month of February in our family, and we heated our pool up numerous times for birthday parties and New Year's Eve parties.
Yeah.
And I think those are some pretty strong memories with my kids, at least. So anyway.
I think people are worried too about the cost of it, but you think the majority of the time you don't have to have it. You just have to have it heated past freezing.
Right.
As long as it's circulating and it's at like 50 degrees, 45 degrees, 50 degrees, that's fine. Heat it up when you're going to use it.
Right.
Especially with the auto cover and the in-floor heating. It really helps with the cost. And again, and the cost of the opening and closing you're saving as well.
Right. Do you do a lot of auto covers on your pool projects there?
Yeah, I personally wouldn't have a pool personally without auto cover. Just with leaves and debris, even in the spring, all the pollen that comes down, and then obviously heat. We use only hydraulic generally covers. We even have custom special plates that are made for our covers locally, steel that we put down over the vault. Our vault is monolithic part of the shell.
Right.
So we do, well. We do them quite heavy duty. There are the quite added costs, so they are substantial, but we have calculated roughly about a 10-year payback in heat loss and evaporation.
Yeah, we.
Not to mention safety. If a client says safety, it's
hands down, it's the safest thing that you can do. You can't get into a pool that's got a cover on it, a built-in cover, and that's the one thing. And I've done. It's become more and more of a popular situation to do here, and we do a heavy steel cover over our vaults. I can't remember the last time I didn't do what we call walk-on lids, where it looks like the masonry and everything.
Yep.
Yeah,
that's right.
But
I hesitate to tell the story, but we had a client that had an auto cover that kept failing, and we couldn't figure out why because they're so robust. And they kept breaking the cord, and we thought maybe there was a burr on a piece of stone or something, and we couldn't figure it out. And so he went and looked at his camera in the backyard, and his teenage kids were riding the auto cover back and forth.
I hadn't heard that one before. That is pretty.
Well, that was a fun story. And he was irate because he said, "You made me pay all this money for this auto cover, and it's breaking." And I'm thinking they just don't break. So what's going on? So I said, "There's got to be something. Go look at your camera or something." And he did.
Surprise, surprise. So
yeah,
I bet those boys got a surprise when they found out.
Oh, yeah.
So
I think they got the bill.
Yeah.
We've talked a lot about how you can build in the geographical elements that you have, but do you design at all? I'm sure you do, around these elements and protecting people and letting them enjoy the outside a little bit more. What elements do you might push into your designs to help your client enjoy the outdoors more when it's cold?
Well, first of all, you have to find out really what the client is looking for. Nowadays, a lot of people are not spending time in the sun, but they want a pool. As the sun is getting hotter and the UV rays higher, people are worrying about burning or being outside longer. A lot of people looking for shade structures in the summer. We talk about Canada being cold, but we do get very hot in the summer. We have very extreme weather. We can go up to 100 degrees in the summer and minus 25 in the winter. So we get the best of both worlds. So people, it's either they love to lay in the sun or they don't. And therefore you're dealing with shade structures, but then sometimes the shade structures can also have heaters on them or covers on them. Big things now are these aluminum pergolas with the louvers that open and close, very popular because they generally don't need a building permit. Some municipalities don't really know what to do with them because they are portable. Again, depending if they're bolted down or not bolted down, it can be. You generally want to bolt them down because a big gust of wind could pick them up. But those pool houses are very popular for our higher end clients. And I think I sent you a photograph of a big pool with almost look like a tea house in the back. And that was a client that just wanted they were from China, and their father came once a year from China, and they wanted a cabana to play mahjong by the pool.
Awesome.
And so that was something I designed for them, and they use it all year round.
So the structures, you create shade situations. So one thing before I forget, so do the people ever build a structure of some type instead of the auto cover? I've seen these acrylic panels that slide over pools. Do you guys do those some?
Yes, we've done a couple of them. I believe they're made. There's two manufacturers, an American manufacturer and a Czechoslovakian manufacturer. They look like little mini pieces of dome.
Yes.
They nest.
Right.
So they're on a track, and in the summer you can push them back. You leave them on the pool, and they're on the track sliding back and forth. The issue with those in the winter is they're not like an indoor pool that has a HVAC system that removes the humidity. So when you got a warm pool and it's really cold outside, you're going to get drips and potentially icicles on the inside of those things.
Oh, wow.
So it's like swimming in the rain.
Wow. So you could have an icicle form inside your structure.
Yeah, or just wet drips.
Yeah. Okay.
And they're not overly thermal, but they do keep the wind off.
Right.
And snow off, and they I have a couple of clients that have them and they love them. I have one client that got a little bit less robust one, and they literally remove it, and they literally nest together, and it doesn't take up a lot of room in the garage. So they take it right off in the summer.
Well, it sounds like a cover would be the way I would go, but that's cool to understand. Now, do a lot of people build structures and put the pool inside the structure itself?
Well, we do indoor pools, a lot of indoor pools in our area. And I even did one last year with a client when they dug out the basement of the pool of the house. They built the pool indoor, but the outside was open. So the house floors above the pool were not built. So the pool was still open to the sky, but it was in the basement of the house.
That's cool.
So that was kind of neat. I think the plan is to eventually put a glass dome over it. But indoor pools are very popular. Putting structures over pools, not so much. Like a pergola or a cabana over top of a pool.
Right.
Not a lot.
So when you do a pool inside, there's got to be things that you have to do differently than if you're building one in the outdoor elements.
Yeah, I think it's probably because of commercial pools, but most people that are buying indoor pools, their first question is, am I going to smell chlorine?
Well, sure.
Is my house going to smell like chlorine? And so that's always a big thing. We do a lot of different things for that. Obviously, ozone and UV, which reduces a lot of the chlorine and other particulates as well. We're also doing two projects right now with the nano bubble system, which drastically reduces almost no chlorine. And that's oxygen and ozone, which is really amazing. Indoor pools, you also have to deal with humidity. So when you're dealing with an indoor pool, humidity from the evaporation, and there's a fine balance in the water temperature and the room temperature to mitigate evaporation. Auto cover for sure in an indoor pool will mitigate evaporation tremendously. But if you don't have an auto cover indoor, you're going to want to have an HVAC system. Some people have heard of a system called a Dryotron, which is sort of the Kleenex of dehumidifiers. It's a brand name. And you see a lot of those on commercial, but they also make residential. But they're enormous dehumidification systems. And what they do is they use heat to break up the humidity, and it returns the heat to the pool. Not enough to heat a spa, but enough to keep the pool warm.
That's nice. And
then when you have equipment in the house, you can't use a traditional pool heater. So you would use a boiler, and then you use a heat exchanger and a bypass. So Some people use their boilers, say, to heat the driveway, and they're not heating the driveway in the summer, so they use the boiler for the pool.
I'm wondering with the process of having a pool in a house. I'm just thinking because I don't know much about it. I know about the elements of the chemicals and stuff, but with when you're like coming in, and I'm assuming that most of them would be new builds where you're planning ahead with the build of the house. But is there a way for you to come in with a pre-existing home that has a space for a pool in it somewhere, which would be hard for me to imagine, but
Yep.
and actually, go into the foundation they have? How does that process work?
Yeah, they'd have to have a fairly big open space in the basement. We've done it where we've cut the concrete and dug a hole, small pool. Some people adding additions onto their houses and planting the pool in the addition in the backyard. So that's very popular. That really is the best way to do it. And you can tell a client like a minimum budget for doing an addition on your house with a pool is $500,000 to $1 million. By the time you do the pool and the structure and the dehumidification and all the moisture barriers from the rest of the house, you want to keep the moisture out of the rest of the house as well.
Yeah, mold's not a good thing.
No.
And again, if you've got a respected builder that builds a lot of indoor pools, you know that they know what we're doing. Now, we don't particularly do the HVAC, but we work with all the HVAC suppliers. We know what needs to be done. And there's a lot of it's really a fine art in getting it right. It really comes down to temperature, and it comes down to a fine balance. Client has to tell you sort of what temperature they like to swim in. If they're exercising, they like the pool a little cooler. If they're just relaxing, they want the pool a little warmer. But then the air temperature has to be very similar to the pool temperature, so you get less evaporation.
Yeah, especially when they're on like a second story or something like that.
Although nobody listens because everybody wants beautiful vistas and views coming into their indoor pools, glass is the enemy of indoor pools because in a cold climate, you get moisture can build up on the glass. So usually when you see the venting systems are either in the floor or in the ceiling, and they're literally blowing on the glass.
I would think. Yeah, that would be hard to pull off. I can't imagine glass.
We've heard some bad stories about it.
Everyone puts a glass. I have a client now that's doing shark tanks in his indoor pool.
Oh, that's cool.
So you'll be swimming in the pool and the shark tanks in the wall. So it's cool. He's using the nanobubble because he just doesn't want to smell chlorine.
Yeah.
Sharks don't want to smell chlorine.
No, I wouldn't think so. So, yeah, I've heard of that. That's amazing. I didn't know anybody had done that except for Rick Chafee. So got sharks in Canada as well as in Arizona.
I think we borrow them from you.
Yeah. So you do you have a personal pool?
I actually don't because I just moved. I have a hot tub. I was in a condo for a long time in Toronto, which had a beautiful indoor pool, which we built, and I love swimming laps. It was great. I miss it. So there's one coming in my future.
Okay. So you sent us some photographs of some projects, and the one that just was I thought was amazing was the piano. Yeah. Can you tell us the story about that?
Yeah, it's a really cool project. It's right downtown Toronto. If you were in their second floor of their house, you can see the CN Tower from their house. She is, I believe, an ambassador to France or something like that. And her daughter is 9 years old and was a piano player. And she really thought she would want to get her a grand piano pool for her birthday. She said, "You think you could do a pool like Liberace's pool?" And I said, "Well, it's really funny you say that because my grandmother was a big fan of Liberace and I have seen the pool, not in person." I said, "We can do a lot better than that." So the pool, I did sketch out to scale, and the keys are, and I imagine I did them on a graph sheet and sent it to Dell Tile, and they put it in the computer. Those are all individual mosaic tiles. The steps going into the pool actually are Frank Lloyd Wright's initials, FLW. If you look at them carefully, you can see his initials because uh, I was impressed by him in some of the classes I took and really appreciated his work. Because of Liberace, the finish in the pool is white diamonds, white diamonds, and the pool, you don't see the other end, but the pool actually has swim jets in it.
Okay.
And even the decking around is an elaborate herringbone deck, and that's an industrial driveway paver that came in really long, thin lengths, and so it gave us a dramatic. But the ebony and ivory, the black and white together, the black coping and the white finish, and the black and white keys really shone. They had an element that they were trying to get in because they spent half their year in Europe. They bought a piece of the Berlin Wall that had a graffiti piece of picture of Jack F. Kennedy on it, John F. Kennedy.
Oh, wow.
And for some reason, they couldn't get it into the country. It was going to be craned in behind the pool.
Wow.
It never happened.
Oh.
So unfortunately, but because that was very exciting.
Well, not yet, or it's just not going to happen.
We ended up putting a rose arbor behind it.
Oh, not as exciting for sure. Wow, that would have.
But they were a fun client, and again, we at Gibson, we do a lot of philanthropic things and charities, and we sponsor a lot the David Foster Foundation. So I showed David Foster the pool, and he was just flabbergasted. He said, "I think I need one of those." So maybe I'll get a chance one for him too.
Well, good luck with the opportunity.
Yeah.
So is there do you have a particular style that you like to design? Or, I mean, there's designers I find that fall into two camps. Some love to design a particular style, and then others love to design different, every project being different. So how would you describe yourself and your style?
I would say the latter. I do listen to the client because it's one of the first questions I ask. Are you more of a free-form natural person, or are you more clean lines and linear? And sometimes there's a mix. Or do you like sort of clean lines but natural landscaping, or do you like a real modern organic shape? Because you can do either. And
Sure.
there's still value in a kidney bean if you put a sort of California white concrete apron around it.
Yeah.
That sort of cutout look. I do like free form only because it's not a lot of people do it. A rectangle is, to me, more commercial. So anyone can have a rectangle,
Right.
but I don't subscribe to the traditional shapes. I don't go crazy, but I also I think I sent you one. Well, the piano pool is an example of a free-form pool with a bit of rectilinear in it as well. But I did the one with the Japanese pergola. That was a beautiful hand sketch. Actually, I hand sketched that pool, and it was free-form. Unfortunately, they made me widen it because they wanted to swim 2 lanes. But when I originally sketched it, it was really elongated and curved. But they did maintain the eye-shaped spa and the eye-shaped sun ledge and all glass tile. So really fine details on a free-form pool. Not necessarily a humpback kidney, but you'll see in my designs, like I did a fire pit in the deck that matched the radius of the pool, and the fire comes out of the deck.
Right.
And the water feature was matching the radius on the back and match the deck. That the picture of that backyard, when I first went, it's a huge backyard, and the lady wanted to remove 100-year-old willow tree, and I said, no. We have to design around that. We have to design around that tree, and so we did. I did, and that was I call that my $1 million hand sketch.
Wow, that's awesome.
Yeah. To answer your question, there's another photo I sent you of a very traditional backyard with a limestone decking, a beautiful elegant limestone rectangular raised spa with a nice weir made out of stone. So very elegant and stately, in a beautiful home in East Toronto. And they wanted the pool and the decking and everything and the spa to reflect the home. So respecting the home and the finishes on the home. I'm really big on that and very picky on that. I have had arguments with clients when they try to pick stone that doesn't match their house. I do get a bit, it's probably my color theory curse. But they thank me in the end.
All the pieces go together so much better if you do respect that. But now and then there's rules to be broken too. So, you just gotta, figure out which works best for each and every client. So, but that's fun when you have the creativity to, create, all different types of things for different clients. I think that's a fun process to go through.
It's always fun when one of them wants a rectangular pool and the other wants a freeform.
Oh yeah.
And we're doing flat back kidneys.
That conversation hasn't come up as much as it did earlier in my career, because it seemed like, recently everybody wanted a rectangle. And it was like, that can get kind of boring if that's all that you want. But, we come in with some creative things around them. But, yes, early in my career, I don't know how many, yes, I want straight lines and I want curves. And so it was like, okay, how do I keep this marriage together? So
I've seen other people's designs with like elliptical kind of shapes with zero edges, like real wide curves, straight sides. I really am. I like those. I'd like to do a few more of those. I had another really interesting client. I didn't send you a photo, but when I first went there, I met the whole family, and they all had something they wanted. She wanted just to be able to see the pool from a certain spot near the second floor, and her whole backyard was grass and entirely surrounded by flowers. And all they wanted was basically the pool in the middle of the yard, and then let the flowers grow around it. He wanted to swim. The son wanted something deep he could jump in, and the daughter wanted a sun ledge that she could lay on. So they got everything. There's a bit of a grade there, so I put a water feature. When I was in Mexico, I went swimming in the cenotes. And to me, I just thought that green color of the water was just spectacular. And I've been trying to get that color in a pool, and I think I got really close on this one. So it really just stands out. And it's been about 2 years now, and it is growing back. All the plants are growing back around it. So it's literally this oasis in the middle of the backyard. And it's totally free form. It's not, doesn't conform to any shape. It's if you said anything, it might be like a clover leaf. Really neat.
That sounds like a beautiful setting. Just simple, clean, but very organic as well. So anyway, just
I do like the organics because you can have a little fun with them and be free. And I never do the same one twice. That's never similar.
So when you present your projects, do you do 3-dimensional modeling? What program do you, I'm just curious what one you use.
I use SketchUp.
Okay.
That's how I start. I can literally take my hand sketches and scan them in because they're that close to scale, and just sketch over them and pop them up and down. And if I'm really trying to make them look realistic, I use Lumion.
Oh, yeah, that's a beautiful combination. That's a trick to it. So is everybody at Gibson use that same process, or do people do different things?
Some people do different things. We actually have 5 masters at Gibson.
Wow. 5.
Yeah. And 3 more on the way. We all do it a little bit differently. I'm the only one, I think, that does a basic, like a really tight hand sketch. And then Evan, one of our other guys, he's a real CAD guy. He likes the CAD drawing.
Guy. Yeah.
Yep, and also some are just like the bubble diagram. Like literally, this is where the pool's going to go. This is where the shed's going to go, and we've got other technicians in house that can do stuff as well, with SketchUp or CAD or depending. CAD I always, or my little dog's barking. CAD I always find is good if you're doing major detail with, if you need elevations and you need wall tops and bottoms and you need plants and lights and all that stuff, you need to go into CAD. But if you're looking for a concept and finishes, then the SketchUp is great. Some people use Pool Studio. I've never used Pool Studio. I've taken a class on Pool Studio. For me, I think it has a lot of great things, like you can literally put the address in and get all the coordinates and the sun directions and all that stuff. But for me, being able to build something in it, rather than just putting a pool shape in or a standard pool shape. I even draw my free forms in SketchUp, which is crazy.
Well, it's just, you're coming up with stuff, as you said, unique every time. And so,
literally, it's circles.
Yeah. But Pool Studio, there's a lot of people that, they just work with templates and drop stuff in there. You're truly designing the space. So that's amazing to me. Who is the person that is committed to education at Gibson? Because if you've got 5 masters already and 3 on the way, you're going to probably have like a fourth of the masters out there. I mean, there's not that many masters.
And I think he just signed up 13 more for Genesis classes.
So who promotes that?
Ed Gibbs.
Okay. So
we've had success with me and Evan. We were the first 2 that started, and of course Connor and Kaylee, who are the heir apparents at Gibson. They both have their masters, and then Jason Deals, who's been with us for 25 years, he got his masters as well. So
that's a commitment, because I know what it took, to do that process. But the problem was I started when they first started. They took a long time to go to class number 2 and class number 3 when, they just went to Morro Bay. Anyway.
You have to fly to places. So when you think of it as the initial commitment, it's a financial commitment that's tremendous, because you're not only paying for a flight, you're paying for a hotel, you're paying for the class, and you're paying your employee's salary as well while they're away. So it is a big commitment, but it pays off in the results when you make more sales and you're able to communicate with the clients better and create better results. Our model at Gibson, and a lot of people have this, some people have this model, is once I sell something, it gets handed off to a project manager, and I step back except for selections. So I do the selections for the client, which is all the tile and the coping and the plaster, and any plant material and decking. And then the project manager or the superintendent puts it through and does all the construction. I also help see the permits through.
Yeah, that's fun. I have clients that are always like, "Are you going to get the permits?" And I'm like, "Well, are you volunteering to do it?" And no one's ever volunteered to do that. I sure wish they would.
Well, it depends on what they are. The conservation ones, I almost want them to, because they see just how brutal it is and how long it takes, and then they don't blame you.
Yeah, that's true. We had one that we had to get approval from the Army Corps of Engineers just recently. It took close to 7 months to get approval. So
I was close to a year and a half on one.
Oh.
A client buying a pool, it's always, you always think about managing expectations, especially when we're dealing with weather, cold weather, in raining weather. There's going to be sunny days when there's going to be no one there. It's a process. And I always tell my clients, this is a chance. You probably didn't get to sit and, for most people, didn't get to sit and watch their house get built. But now you're getting to sit and watch the second biggest investment built. Enjoy it. enjoy, get the kids out with hard hats and let them drive the tractor. The guys will do that for them. Take pictures as you go along. We had a client that did a whole stop motion of the whole project, and now he's got the whole project in like less than half an hour. It's really cool. So getting people involved as a client, if you're buying a pool, get involved, pick the samples or work with it's fun. It's like doing your interior design. Get involved, talk to the workers. They're awesome people that build these pools, and they come from all different backgrounds, and they're craftsmen. It's like watching in ancient Rome when they used to sculpt things with hammers and chisels. Our guys are chiseling coping right on the pools and hand troweling plaster, and it's really a remarkable thing. One thing, when you take Genesis courses as a designer, you can get a bit of an ego, because you start to, they say a little knowledge is a dangerous thing. So when I started going back to the office and telling the guys that they were bending the rebar wrong and tying it wrong, and shooting it wrong, the concrete wrong, they put me in the pit and showed me quickly how to let me show them.
Yes. So yeah, here you can show us how it's done. So
So for a client's perspective, I mean, it's a journey. It's a destination we all excited for, and everyone's, as soon as you sign on the dotted line, everyone's, when can we swim?
Right.
Most dangerous question ever.
That's a good quote. Most dangerous question ever for a pool builder. When can you swim?
Yeah, when can we swim? We got a birthday party.
And it's finished. Yeah, we got a birthday party. Go to Great Wolf Lodge.
Well, I tell them, there'll be another birthday the following year as well. So, don't get hung up on that. So
we always just focus on quality. And like anything, we don't rush quality. It's a very important thing. Most pool builders get paid as the project goes on, so they're interested in getting it finished just as much as you are. But most of us that have degrees, and yourself included, Mike, we don't rush quality.
So one of the things we have on here that we talk about is a true crime, poolside true crime. So something that's happened to somebody that it was a crime that they didn't know that they shouldn't have done that, or something along those lines. Is there a story you can think of where somebody experienced a true crime?
Yeah, it's sometimes people know about things that are in their backyard, but maybe not forthcoming. Like I had a client that knew that he had water issues in the backyard, but we started digging down, and it was like a lake coming in the backyard. It was like a fountain coming up. We went down 9 feet, and it still wouldn't stop. Wow. And so that was one. Burying the dog in the backyard is probably not a good idea.
So yeah.
That's going to come up when the pool comes up.
Yeah.
And those are true crimes for sure.
Yeah. And people can get real upset about the pet situation. So
well, they forgot where they planted it.
Yeah. So it's a good thing to
or the other thing that's really interesting is the things you find. So we had a project where we dug down and we found a house buried in the backyard that was probably over 150 years old, and it was almost like a log cabin, and we were almost afraid to tell someone because they were probably protected or something. Like it was a whole house.
Was that a ravine?
It was not in a ravine,
okay.
But the ravines, you can find all sorts of stuff down there too, mostly pottery and stuff like that, but that's even very rare.
Well, you mentioned archaeologists to come check a site. So, I mean, I've never had to do that. So that would be very interesting to, have they ever come and found something that, a house is a pretty big thing. So
yeah. A house is a big thing. Old like drainage pipes from old neighborhoods that were maybe old sewer systems. That's big. Before my time, I hear legend of a house we dug in a place in Toronto called Hogs Hollow. And the area was where they used to dump all the cinder ash from the fireplaces. And this backyard had probably about 8 to 10 feet of cinder ash in the backyard that had to be dug out. And the client got a quote, I think it was $100,000 to put piers in and to build the pool on piers, and he agreed.
Yeah, well, it's just whatever's, best for you. Everybody's different. So it was worth the cost for him to get what he wanted, I was sure.
And because the trees are so protected, there's quite often people want to make trees disappear, and I don't want to know about it.
Yeah. We've had that happen too.
Yes, we have. We don't want to know anything about
it. I get it. We had a situation where a client had I don't know if you know, have them down there, but black walnut trees are really nasty because not only do they have these giant green walnuts that drop everywhere, but they drop black sap all over everything. And the arborist was insisting that they were able to take it down because he had small children and he was worried about them getting conked on the head with these things. And the inspector came and said, no, you can't take that tree down. It's too big. And he said, well, go in the backyard and have a look at it. He said, I'm not going in the backyard to look at it. It's going to conk me on the head. The inspector wouldn't even go back there.
Danger zone, black walnut.
They ended up getting it removed, but hesitantly.
Yeah. Well, so you said the trees are protected. Do they use aerial photography or something like that to know what's on the property? So when you go to pull the permit, that it's flagged.
So the ravines do, and an interesting story. I had a client that did remove a very big tree. It was actually damaged in a thunderstorm. The lightning had hit it, and they took it out, emergency. And Ravine, when he went for the permit for the pool, said, where's that big tree? And he also removed some rocks that were around that were just strewn around the property. And they had pictures from 10 years back every year for 10 years.
Oh, so they knew exactly what happened.
Now, when I go on that Toronto website, I put the tree canopy app, and it shows the tree canopy in the entire city.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
It's amazing technology. We used to have the same issue when we were in California. There was what called heritage oaks, and they were of a certain size. And, we had clients that would come in and be like, well, I want to put a pool in. And I'm like, well, you have a heritage oak, you can. And so it was amazing how some of those trees died, anyway, and then they got their pool, but they,
well, you know what?
Say no.
Honestly, for me, I love trees, and for me, it's a challenge to design around them, because there's nothing better than when you have a giant tree like that on that freeform with the willow tree. When you see that now in the backyard, it's stunning, like it's spectacular. And to design that around that, but also you can light them up like a cathedral. You can light these trees up as part of the landscape lighting, and it's spectacular. So if you or make it a focal point and have it reflect in the pool, which is really cool.
Yeah, we actually just left the job site today for the first appointment, and we talked to the client about that very thing. I'm a tree hugger. I grew up in West Texas where there weren't any, and so when we purchased our lot, I even counted all the trees that were on it. And my wife's like, really? There's 83 trees? And I'm like, yeah, there's 83 trees on our property. Now, some were removed because we got a pool, and some have died over the last 20 years, but, there's still 70. So
when you remove a tree legally to put a pool in, because you can up to a certain size, you have to plant 3 in its place.
Oh, wow.
Makes sense. Right. So, well, it's a beautiful city that you live in and work in. So do you guys travel very much, or do you find that there's plenty of work right there for you?
We do we pick our we pick our, I would say, higher end stuff that's outside of the city very strategically. We built a project in Abu Dhabi for the royal family at the top of the landmark building. It's on the 67th floor. I think it's the second or third tallest pool in the world. It's open to the sky, and it has 160 LED lights in the floor. So when you're floating in the pool, you feel like you're floating in space. It's pretty cool. It's on our website.
I'll have to go find that one.
Yeah, me too.
It's all abalone tile, and it's surrounded by glass. So that's cool. We built a pool on an island in Georgian Bay where we dynamited out the island. It's up in northern Ontario, and it's on a freshwater lake, but it's a chlorinated pool on the lake. We've done some work in south of France, the Marriott Hotel in St. Kitts. Huge residential pool. When you fly into St. Martin, it's right when you fly into the airport. It's about the size, I think, of 4 football fields, and it's got some gold tile on the 24 karat gold tile on the edges of the spas. So we do some big stuff, but we pick and choose those.
Are there people that typically live there in Toronto that have property elsewhere?
Yes.
So you start a relationship with them there and then travel wherever they want you to go.
We're also a member of the Master Pools Guild, and so sometimes we get referrals through there.
Sure. So long ago, I started with Jeremy Pools in Sacramento, which was one of the founders of the guild, and they were a great family, and I really appreciated all that. I worked there for 7 years before I came back to Texas, where I grew up, but they built a great product, and I'm sad to see that Mike and all them sold the company off, but they got to 100 years old, which is
wow, that's great,
quite amazing. So
anyway. I know a lot of homeowners listen to your podcast, and I think what's really important is you're building an extension of your home. This is something you're putting in for your family that's going to last generations. This is not like a pool you're buying from Walmart or something. This is something that's going to be there forever. We're renovating pools now we built 40 years ago, and is some for the same family that bought them originally. Just the generation has changed. It's really incredible. So hiring the builder that's going to be there for the long term, a long time. Do your research, do your homework, find those people, and you'll find them.
Yeah. So that was one of the questions that I had in closing was if you had any tips for homeowners. So that's a jewel that you just gave them. Any additional ones you can think of?
Yeah, I mean, people buy from people they like, but also make sure those people you like are knowledgeable. They have the credentials to back it up. Nice people can still do crappy work. So really make sure that the person that you like has the credentials to back it up, and you can see those credentials. Make sure that they work for a reputable company. Make sure that you love the design. Make sure you love it, and don't be afraid to make changes and push back a little bit with not only the design but budget. I watched a great masterclass. I don't know if anyone has that app, the Masterclass app, and you can take classes from famous architects and writers. And I took the Frank Gehry class. He's an architect from Toronto, and he does those big Guggenheim museums with the titanium. And he answered the question, first of all, why he does those curves and how he does it. And I'll let you see that for yourself because it's a remarkable answer, and it's too long to go into, but it's not random. But his other thing was, no matter what you do, respect the client's budget. And so when I speak to a client up front, I say, have you put a budget on this project? And most people have something in their mind, but sometimes they're afraid to tell the builder because they're worried that they're going to just go with the budget. And if you were thinking it's going to be less, they might have said something too much. Do a little research and get a proper budget together of what you've got. And the pool builder should be able to tell you whether they can do it or not within that budget, or what they can do in that budget and what they maybe can't but could do at a later date. you have the opportunity to either use the budget you have, or get a bigger budget, or phase, as we discussed before.
Right.
But really, but I would say, because a lot of people are afraid to ask the budget question, but it's really important to make sure you have a clear budget, and have someone that knows how to respect it and spend it properly and wisely, and get you as most as they possibly can for that budget.
Yeah. Good advice. I have one last question. I know Trey has some questions still too. So, but where do you get inspiration?
Everywhere. Because I've had this training from Genesis with architecture, so I do get a lot of inspiration from architecture, from nature, inspiration from mentors. Kirk Bianchi, he's a master at Genesis, and some of his designs. I took his class. It's just remarkable. The stuff that he comes up with. Again, those large radiuses and
yes, he does beautiful work.
It's really so. Other builders, I really don't like to be too influenced by other pool designs. I tend to, if I'm going to go outside the square, it's almost free form. I draw big circles on the paper first and connect the dots, sort of feel it out. But it's a lot in nature.
Awesome.
It actually is. It really is the yard, and every yard's square, right? But not every yard is square. Every yard is square, but not every yard is square. That's our esoteric quote for the day.
Thank you. I'll steal that one.
I'm curious. So we do at the end of the show usually some just easy questions just to get to know you a little bit better. So I'm wondering what your favorite movie, book, and meal would be.
Oh wow. So my favorite movie is Immortal Beloved.
Okay.
Story of Beethoven. And it's really remarkable because there's an artist who wrote some of the most beautiful music completely stone deaf. And the famous Ode to Joy that everyone knows, da 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 da, he never ever actually heard, ever. Wow. And the story is quite remarkable. What was the other one?
It was book and then meal.
Oh, so my favorite, I call it my death row meal, would be a onion bun with butter and a piece of 5-year-old cheddar and tomato with salt and pepper.
Sounds good.
Oh yeah. And
favorite book. Oh boy.
Book, yeah. Book is a tricky one.
Yeah, because I read a lot, especially because I commute, so I read a lot of audiobooks. Oh, I just read one, and it was an audiobook, and it was narrated by Tom Hanks, called The Dutch House.
Interesting.
Really great book. I would imagine it will be a movie.
Awesome.
So, and then where's your favorite place to travel?
Marie Patchett is the author.
Where's your favorite place to travel?
I'm actually going next week on the Genesis tour to Italy, to Bologna. And I love Italy. I adore Italy.
Tell Maria hello.
I will.
I really wanted to go, but I could not. So anyway, when they came up with that trip, I'm usually booked out a year out and what I can do and what I can't do. And but I took her class there in November. So yes, tell her I wished I could be there, and I'll hopefully catch her next time.
For sure. I'm very excited. We're going to see a couple of pool builders there. We're going to the pool show. So I'm hoping to see some inspiration there as well. Obviously the culture, and I've never been to that part of Italy, so I'm really excited for that.
Awesome. Well, thanks again for sharing with us this evening. Really Pleasure. Appreciate all you do. I've sat in a number of your classes. I know you're very passionate about the industry and helping people. And thank you for the insight that you've provided homeowners as well.
Thank you. And whenever you're in Toronto, come up for a dip in the cold.
Oh, I will certainly do that. So we'll take care, and we'll talk to you some later.
Wonderful. Have a good night.
You too.
Bye. Canada does things a little bit different.
Oh yeah, it's a different geography, different elements they have to deal with. I thought Texas, we got temperature shock, a lot of temperature change, a lot of swinging, cold to hot, but they're a different animal.
Yeah, they've got us by at least 20 degrees.
Easily, yeah.
Oh, minus 20.
Yeah, he
I
said
think.
minus 25, I think, to 100 degrees Fahrenheit. I don't know exactly, but yeah, that's a lot. So I really, the interesting part, there's a lot of stuff in there. There's really good for homeowners and like up and coming designers, maybe even expert designers that want a little bit more education. But the overall how they're able to still build in the wintertime with such drastic environments is very interesting.
Well, I just think it's amazing how they can create an environment that people can still enjoy their pool all year long up there. So not just shut it down in the wintertime.
Yeah, because when I hear about stories like from people from the East Coast, they all say they shut it down for the winter. It's a seasonal, industry.
Right. So with the insulation of the pipes, that was pretty cool. So that's why everybody up there has a basement, because they have to dig down 4 feet to get through the frost layer.
Yeah.
So they don't have movement. So that's why in Texas we don't have basements, because we don't have a frost layer.
It's interesting. A lot of people that we've talked to have done pools and basements.
Well, it's a usable space that, you can come in and put something in. Plus, it's the most stable because you're in the ground versus, hey, let's put the pool on the 3rd floor.
Yeah, you don't have to worry about leaks, the water leaking down on you when you're sleeping in the bed.
Which is something I'm certainly thinking about today. So anyway, after having a leak in the house. But anyway, there was some really good information there, as he had some really good tips for homeowners as well. But it's a really interesting process. And some of the things that they do very much the same as we do. But no, I really appreciate John coming on and sharing with all the things that he had. So look forward to going up to Toronto and visiting.
Oh, yeah. Well, that trip will have to be after Houston, though.
Yeah. Well, he gets to go to the Italian pool show.
I know.
We get to go to the Houston pool show. So
a little bit of a different culture.
A little bit different, yeah, in Italy versus Houston.
One has more smashed windows.
Yeah. So anyway, but awesome. Well, I'll look forward to the next podcast.
Oh, yeah.
See you later.
See ya.